Okay. Nerd Takes. I'm Justin,
Nerd takes. I'm John.
and we are here to talk about El Monstero 2022. So this show was originally scheduled for December 22nd, but because of the impending terrible ice storm and weather that we didn't really necessarily get, it was cold as hell,
I
but
mean, it still snowed and it was still cold as hell.
was very cold. So
It
the
was
show
very cold.
got rescheduled for December 29th, and like it is every year, it's at the pageant. This, if you've never heard of El Monstero is well, it's a Pink Floyd tribute band, and they've been putting on this show since November 27th, 1999. That's crazy, right?
Jesus.
I know. I didn't. I know it's been going on for at least a decade or a decade and a half, and I realize it's been going on for over 20 years. And the first show was at Mississippi Nights, and then since then, they have actually added shows in Kansas City and Springfield. They have done summer shows in St. Louis. They've been at Jefferson Barracks Military Post. They've been at the Verizon Wireless
I think I
Amphitheater
went to that one.
at the one at Jefferson Barracks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And then they've also done a show that we both attended at Art Hill in 2014.
Yep. We were at that one.
It was hot.
It was hot at Jefferson Barracks too, and they did not have nearly enough bath. Like I think they were short on a couple things. It might have been bathrooms and it might have been bars.
Mm,
Because I'm pretty sure I went to that with Joe, and I'm fairly certain the Ewings were there too.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
So who's this band made up of?
So this band, current band members, it's there. I mean, I think throughout the years we can attest to the fact that like there's been some people that have been there, and then they got a new saxophone player this year. Uh, Mark Thomas Quinn is lead vocals and guitar. Jimmy Griffin also vocals and I would say lead guitar. Kevin Ganyapane, Ganyapane, sure.
Sure.
He's bass and background vocals. John Pisoni is drums and background vocals. Brian Green, guitar. Bill Ryder, keyboard and background vocals. Jake Elkins, also keyboard. And then it's featuring Ermine Cannon on background vocals, Tondra Williams, vocals, Kristen Johnson, vocals, and Dave Farber on the saxophone.
Yeah, and so like El Monstero was originally started by a few members from the band called Stir, and they are well, again, they're from St. Louis, Missouri. So that's why most of their shows are well, they all originated in St. Louis, and now they've spread out since then from here. But basically, it's all St. Louis. So what is kind of cool, like you said, is that we see different band members, we see different singers pop in and out. They do a lot of local talent. They have people that are from like KSHE and other like stations like come out and they're like guest hosts, or they are performers, or they're people that are like on the screens, like doing things during the show. It's a pretty interactive show.
Yes. And that's kind of grown throughout the years as well, as far as like you would say like the pageantry of it, and like putting on like not just going up there and playing the music, but like getting the visual effects for the music and all that stuff.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
they're in the outfits. They've got the police officers from what is it, Brick
From
and
the
Mortar?
wall.
Yeah, they've got people that are doing like this year they had fire what do they call them, performers, acrobats, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
They had the women that are on they're doing pole dancing, but it's like a little bit more artistic than just traditional pole dancing. um
True.
and then there were people doing a lot of the acrobatic things where they've got the circle or the multiple circles are spinning around in circles, and people are basically putting on like just an
They're
awesome.
gymnasts.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they've had people on like ropes before in years past.
ropes, and then also the sheets,
Yep. Yep.
which
I remember that one too.
that was a really cool one. Every year it's different, but also kind of the same, which is kind of neat.
Sure.
So this year, you kind of know what to expect. I mean, would you say that I would venture to guess the percentage of songs that are played consistently every year is maybe like 70%, 75%?
Probably. I mean, yeah, probably.
Yeah, and then
Because I mean, yeah,
it's not
there are obviously the bangers that they have to hit.
right. It's not in the same order. They flip it around a little bit. There's one particular area that's always in the same order. So let's talk about the set list from this year.
Yeah. So they played Shine On You Crazy Diamond, the whole thing, all 15, 20 minutes of it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they start playing stuff from the wall, Another Brick in the Wall, Mother, Empty Spaces, Young Lust, etc. And then they start going, they did a few deep cuts. Arnold Lane, Lucifer Sam. I think I've probably listened to both of those. I know Arnold Lane more than Lucifer Sam.
I know that from this show. That's the only reason why I know that song, because I seem like they play Arnold Lane every year at this show.
It's one of the more popular older songs. That and like See Emily Play, I think, which I don't know if that's on there or not. Echoes, one of my personal favorite. And then that bled into Set the Controls of Heart of the Sun. And then a couple more. And then they get back into the wall. And then they do an intermission.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do your favorite section. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah. Hey you, Sheep, Have a Cigar is one of my favorite ones. Is There Anybody Out There? And obviously Wish You Were Here is a incredible sing-along song for the entire audience. That was a really cool part of it.
Yep.
And then they wrap it up. Well, not wrap it up. Before the encore, this is what they do every year, right?
Yeah, they play Dark Side, all of it.
Yeah, in order.
In order.
Is really cool, especially for someone. And I can tell you right now, my first experience with Pink Floyd in general was watching Wizard of Oz while listening to Dark Side. I mean, I'll just tell you right now, that was the first. I mean, I'd heard songs, but like that was when I was like, oh, I'm really getting into it. And that was in college, so definitely takes me back. It's fun because I even leaned over to you at one point during the show. I was like, oh, this is when it goes into color. Oh, this is when this is happening. I can envision it and what's happening in the movie, almost better than I can in the actual song itself.
Right. Yeah. She opens the door, and the movie's in color is right when money starts.
Yeah, which is awesome. So let's do a review. So important things to consider: our expectations. Again, were they met based on what we thought we were going to experience? Which we've been to this a lot of times. Would we experience it again? We'll touch on that in a second. Feelings while we were watching it, and then it's the overall vibe. So the first two are pretty simple. Expectations, I think you and I, we know what to expect. It's very similar, but also slightly different. We're trying to figure out how many times we've been or how many years we've been going to this show. I would say that I personally have seen them. I think we're getting close to 10 times at this point.
At least.
Yeah, maybe a dozen. And I'm including going to Riverport and including going to Art Hill.
I was going to say, if you include those, then it's probably a dozen, because I would have to say that maybe our first time going was the 10-year anniversary in 2009.
Yeah.
I feel like that's if it's not that, it's give or take a year when we first went. And then we try to go every single year to this one. The one whether it's at Riverport or it's at Art Hill, or if they come up with some other venue that's close that we decide to make that trip. Those are more hit or miss for me, because it's just better in the pageant. Like, that's what I'm used to. That's what I expect. So that's what I try to go to.
I totally agree. I think the pageant is the coolest venue. I think it might be the coolest venue in St. Louis. And so to rewatchability, like, yeah, we go every year, and we're going to go next year. And it's just an awesome show.
It's varying degrees of good. And it really has to do with kind of, we talked about it. Like, they're going to hit a lot of stuff off the wall. They're going to play Dark Side. They're going to play Wish You Were Here. They close the show with Comfortably Numb. Like, those are all the ones that they're going to play. But it's like, what else are they going to play? And are those songs kind of, well, to use, Speak to You, which is Speak to Me is one of their songs, speak to you a little bit more than others. You've talked about it. Oh, we talked about it the night of the show, where there was one year, it might have been last year or 2 years ago, where that was one of your favorite songs because they played more stuff off Animals than they did this year.
Yeah.
And I can recall like a couple times where they played more stuff off Metal. And I really like that album. It's like, wow, they played Fearless off Metal, and I love that song. So that year kind of ranks pretty high on my list because they played one of my favorite songs, but it's not a song that they play every year. They didn't play it this year. They didn't play any Pigs on the Wing or Pigs or Dogs off Animals this year. All they played was Sheep.
Yeah.
not bad, but just not as good for us. Not as good for me personally, and probably not as good for you personally.
Well, yeah. So I'll start with my ranking. I'll let you wrap it up. I think that it's hard. Again, having been a dozen times, I'm naturally inclined to rank it versus all of the other ones I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
versus just having like comparing it to a show in general. So let me just give you what I'm thinking. Like, so if I'm saying as far as a concert in general, as far as an experience I think you need to go to, I put it as a 9. Like it's a Red Luke. It's
If
for red 5 Luke for sure.
if
But
you like Pink Floyd, you have to see them. Period.
so that's my ranking for that. I think though,
I agree.
as far as overall show, you're saying the same thing. A red 9, a red 5,
Uh, as far as like seeing the show in general, like
just
what you said,
experiences. Yeah,
like the experience of like if you are a self-proclaimed Pink Floyd fan and you haven't seen them, you need to go next year.
yeah. But having said that, which actually is more encouraging for next year because they always switched around. I think this year's show, because of part of the set list and because, like you mentioned, I think the bar was set so high last year with playing Pigs on a Wing and some other songs that I also personally really enjoy. I'm going with a 7, a Dagobah Luke for this particular show.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Dagobah Luke.
I had a
Again,
feeling you were right there with the same when the same.
always it's always good, but it really hinges on like kind of like whether it's that other 30%, that other 40% of the set list of like where are they going to go with that, because some of the deep cuts are deep cuts. And even Mark Thomas Quinn said, it was either him or Jimmy said, we try to play a song off every single album.
Yeah.
And some of their old, again, everybody knows they're kind of like midpoint to newer stuff, but it's the older stuff. Like Adam Hart Mother and Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, like those older albums when Sid Barrett was still in the band. There's some strange songs on those albums.
Yeah.
Not to say that they're not good, they're just, in my opinion, they're not as good as their later stuff. Period.
I totally agree. And it was funny because he said at some point he's playing that really deep one. He's like, "You guys still with us? All right, I'll bring you back now with this next song." I think that's when they played "Wish You Were Here."
I'm pretty sure they did, because I mean, a lot of people don't, and even if you know it, it's just like I'd rather listen to Animals. I'd rather listen to metal. Like it's just
it's kind of like honestly,
it's what I enjoy.
I think back about the Pearl Jam concert, and like we need to go back and maybe do a recalibration of some of our scores, because if I'm giving this a 7, I certainly can't give the Pearl Jam concert anything higher than a 6. I mean, it's almost got to be like
I feel like that's what you gave it.
I think that's what I
gave it a 6.
I think I did too, but even upon that, like reflection, that's almost got to be lower, because I think that it almost does itself this show. I'm almost like ranking it lower than it really should be, but not in relation to other shows, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, but I mean, we gave it 2 different rankings. It was more like a general like awesomeness of the experience, and then from our personal perspective, comparing it to the dozen other times we've seen them, how does it stack up?
Yeah, which is maybe unfair. Also, we have a lot of perspective. We've been to the show a lot of times. And I'm rocking all the gear today.
I'm not rocking any of it. I guess I should have, but
no. Well, this was on my table when I went downstairs, and I was like, I got to put the hat on because I look like garbage this morning. So, there it is. All right. Well, there's our review for El Monstero. Again, I don't think either of us can reiterate enough times how awesome of a show this is, regardless of the set list, that you should definitely check out. And if you are not into Pink Floyd, maybe go see their Led Zeppelin version, Celebration Day,
in February, which we are going to go see that at the end of February.
We are going. I already paid you. Yeah. I'm in.
Yep. I already got tickets.
All right. Well, until next time, here we are, Nerd Takes.
Nerd Takes.